Welcome to another episode of the Transforming Lives podcast panel. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Pankhurst.
And I'm Sharmin Prince.
And we are here to solve the problems of the world one episode at a time.
Be sure to smash that subscribe button, review, and download. And don't forget to invite a friend.
Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Transforming Lives podcast panel. And we are together again, Mitzy and Kate and Sharmin and I, Cheryl, ready to share some time with you again. And we're grateful you're here to spend a couple of breaths just kind of coming into our present, just being together and celebrating that we have decided to carve out a little bit of time for ourselves, and you have carved out time for yourself. And we want to make it valuable and intentional. Just taking a deep breath, letting go of your day, letting go of the frustrations you might have felt for the day. And welcome back. What are we talking about today, Sharmin?
So today we're talking about women entrepreneurs. And this was a suggestion from Kate, and we're excited, at least I am, because I know that there are a lot of experiences here, and I can't wait to hear the experiences and the life lessons learned. And I have my notebook and pen ready, Kate and Mitzy and Cheryl.
Okay, so start us off, Cheryl. Give us your thoughts on women entrepreneurs and the issues, and then let us all jump in.
Well, let me tell you, I think I have the very least experience of the four of us. We owned a couple of businesses years and years and years ago when I first started into the workforce, and it was retail and service industry, hairdressing, and a business, a restaurant business. So that was 25 plus years ago. So what I know from that, loved it. The freedom was wonderful in making decisions. The ties of staffing were overwhelming. The hours we would put in were overwhelming. And I found that to be the toughest. If anyone asked me now, I'll give you a free restaurant to set up and run, I'd say, not a chance. Not a chance. The bar could not be big enough for me to do that. It just seemed very overwhelming. And then, of course, 30 years ago, there wasn't all of this online operation happening. It wasn't prevalent. It wasn't relevant as it is now, especially, of course, since COVID. But so what I did to try and contribute to this is, first of all, I'm just starting out as an entrepreneur. So I'm literally just starting. I've just retired from my full-time teaching job at the end of June and launching into this 2 feet blindfolded and a prayer and a hope and a lot of faith that something's going to just fly and work. And there's people out there that need to hear the message that I have for them based on my experiences. So I'm really excited. I'm really nervous. But this is just, I want to hear from you three so I can have some advice to write down and what I need to look out for and what I need to look forward to.
Awesome. Well, I have been an entrepreneur, self-employed since 1993, when I launched my insurance career, and then went into also real estate sales and digital marketing. And it has been quite the journey. You know, I think people go into self-employed or starting their own businesses because they, you know, as you say, want more control of their time and when you can do things and how things are done and stuff. But the reality is of the day, the buck stops with you. And a lot of times it actually means more hours and more time and less control of your thing. And certainly depending on the type of career. I mean, that's one of my challenges on the real estate side. I love, 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 love real estate. And when you're working, once you get a seller, when you're working with a seller, you have a bit more control on your time. But you know, getting somebody to list with you takes a lot of time, versus on the other side, when you're working with a buyer, you have no control on your time, because if a listing comes up and the buyer wants to see it, you know, it's now, and you got to deal with it. Or if they want to put an offer in and there's a deadline, you've got to, you know, do that. So, you know, it very much, I think, depends on the type of business that someone is in. And as you say, what other resources, what other, you know, people, things you can get to help you systematize your business and organize it. So, you know, on the digital marketing side, I can bring in my VAs, you can set up systems, you can create a video training of what to do on Loom and then share it with someone so that they see the process and learn how to do it. But, you know, when you're looking at going into business for yourself and thinking about what you're going to do, look at all of those other things. You know, what are the important things to you, and will this particular thing allow you to control your time the way that you think, or allow you to systematize or bring in assistants and VAs, and do you have the skill set to train them? You know, one of the challenges that I found was you need certain tasks done that you don't know how to do, so you go to hire somebody to do them, but because you don't know how to do that task, how do you figure out how to train them to do something you don't know what to do, or to know whether or not they're really good at it or they're not? So that's one of the things that I have found to be truly the hard part, is that frustration is, how do you, you know, get somebody to be doing something that you don't know how to do, or train them, and or make sure that they do really know what they're doing if it's in an area where it's not your expertise. So I'd love to hear from Sharmin and Kate how they tackle those issues.
While you were speaking, Mitzy, I was thinking about a specific situation that I've had to deal with an expert. And I have no background, no one to guide me in my efforts. And I was putting my trust in the professional, because I don't know how to train them to do the job. And thankfully it wasn't expensive, but I've learned so much through the process that now when I hire someone, I know the questions to ask, I know what is expected. And what was amazing is that the professional was learning at the same time with me, but was not honest, didn't share that they didn't know. Yes, I can do this job. And it was a learning process for me, and I knew for her, but then we had to cancel. So while you're talking, it's like I'm reliving this experience because it's so fresh. But what I would say is that if you don't know, maybe find someone that can teach you. Because hiring out of our expertise can cost us a lot of time, because it costs me a lot of time, and other resources. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to offload in, because that just happened, you know, it ended this morning. So, and that was a long 6 months of time and effort and commitment.
Oh, so much came up for me. Thank you all for sharing. As you were sharing, I could feel excitement. I could feel I wanted to jump out of my seat. I could feel, oh yeah, that. I went through all of the emotions as everyone was speaking. And Cheryl, I heard you say, you know, I believe that there's a place for my voice. And oh my God, there is such a huge place for your voice, because no one can say your message as you say your message. And that is why I think I love entrepreneurship, is that we could all be doing the same thing and we're all going to do it so completely different because we all are so different. And even if you and I have a similar story, like if you could say, oh my God, yes. Oh, and that, and still we are so different. How we would share that is going to be different.
Mhm.
And then Sharmin, when you shared about this process for you the last 6 months, what I also love about entrepreneurship is who you become in the process. How, you know, you push your limits, you get out of your comfort zone, you're learning, you're stretching, you're growing. I find that every day is a new opportunity to grow in some way. And then the other nugget of brilliance that I heard was pay somebody to condense time. There's so many people out there that have, you know, that have done it and have done it over the 20 years. And if you can pay them to condense time for you, which is why I love coaches and healers and someone who's walked the path before and teachers, and they condense time. Like, what an incredible gift that in 6 months they can share with me what took them 20 years.
Mhm.
And then another thing I heard was it can be really lonely, and how important a community is, a tribe is, people who speak your heart language, people who understand the you know, the grind. And I heard this beautiful thing: let your family be your family, and let your community be your community. Right? And it doesn't mean that but you know, my kids have heard so much about all the ins and out of my business, and they're my kids. Right? They know about the challenges of Zoom or the challenges of this, which I'm super grateful for, but they hold me in a different place than my community is going to hold me. I'm so, and for anybody that's out there is like, oh, that sounds so great, I wish I could. You can. That's really what I want you to know, is that you can. That, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. Just, oh my goodness, don't go to the end of your life saying, I wish. Just step into it. And it can be shaky and scary and so rewarding, and celebrate all of the wins. It is glorious. I could not imagine doing anything else. And when I think of having to go somewhere and be somewhere every day, a part of me, and this is just me, I'm so grateful for people that can go somewhere every day. But for me, that does not speak to my soul.
Yeah, I think that you brought up a really, really good point, Kate, which is, you know, keep your family as your family and find other resources, people, your tribe to help you with in business, you know, whether that be joining some networking events, finding some trainers in the particular areas that you want to be learning, you know, just connecting, you know, even through Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, finding those resources and those people to brainstorm, create your own kind of, you know, your sort of trusted board. You know, I have a mastermind group, and it's 3 other business executives that are in completely different fields. And we get together once a week and kind of brainstorm or bring up issues that one of us is having, or something that we're trying to do when we need input on. And it's really beneficial having people who are in completely different field from you, because they see things through different lenses and they've had different experiences than you. And sometimes because of that, they can see something that you can't sing, or bring an idea that's working in a completely different field. And you can sort of go, oh, if I tweak that and change it slightly, this could be super in my field. And that can cause you to have really great breakthroughs. And something, I can't remember if it was Cheryl or Kate was talking about, but it made me kind of think about too, you know, when you're looking at hiring people or bringing on people to work for you, one of the things that somebody introduced me to was something called Test Gorilla, which is good. You can sort of, they've got different tests for different types of jobs and things like that, so that if you're looking at hiring somebody to do something, there's specific tests that you can kind of give them to see if they actually have the skill set that they say that they have. And I'm sure that there are other ones too. That just happens to be the one that I've used, you know, in hiring people. And it's good because it's worked well for hiring people to do something. And then sometimes what happens is you've got your assistant and they, you hire them because they could do certain things. And then as your business grows and changes, you try and get them to do other things that they may not have the skill set for. And so then you have to figure out, can they learn it and come with you, or is that a time point where you need to change up things and bring in different new people because they don't have the skill set, and you kind of got to look at things through those eyes as well.
Are there any, let's say we have a listener who is on the verge of considering, let me use Cheryl as an example.
Okay.
We have Cheryl who is setting out to become an entrepreneur. What would be 3 things that we would say to Cheryl?
3 things about what to expect when you're starting out, or what?
Any advice, anything that we think that Cheryl should know as a new entrepreneur?
I got my pen.
Well, one, if you're going to be doing anything where there could be any kind of liability, look at incorporating. If it's a field where somebody could sue you for your advice or something like that, and also once your business gets to a certain size, it's good to incorporate because for tax purposes and things like that. Another thing I would say is, as I say, look at the end result that you want, what you want your life to look like, and kind of work your way back and see if what it is you're building will give you that, or what changes you would have to make to what you initially thought in order to get to that goal that you want. Because I think a lot of times, right, we sort of go into something because we're passionate about something or whatever, and then we want this vision, but then we didn't kind of look to see, can what I'm doing get me to where I want to go? And sometimes we have to change course, right? Like you think you're on the right path, and sometimes something happens along the way, and you're like, you know what? I might not be on the right path here. I might have to make a course correction. Happens in life with marriages, happens with businesses too. And time blocking. That is another thing, is time block, and then follow the time blocks. When I was in insurance, it was really easy. I would block off my time out. This time is for this time is for that. As I say, the struggle I ran into in real estate was often all of a sudden something would come in that I had no control on my time, and it would, a block that was allocated for something else now had to get used for that, and then finding time to, redo what was originally in that block. So blocking off time, making sure you have breaks. Try that. I don't know if you heard of, I think it's called the Pomodoro effect, where, have a timer, and you have to figure out there too, what your power work cycle is like. Some people I've seen, they say, they set that for 25 minutes and then they take a break. Other people are like, no, once I'm on a roll, I need to just keep on going. And, they need to work for like an hour or 2 hours and then take their break and come back. And it's going to be different for every person. Like for me, I find once I sort of start to roll, I just want to keep on going. But I work from home, and my husband works from home often, and he'll be like, okay, let's go for lunch now or something. And I find if I, break and we go for lunch or something, then it's hard for me to kind of get back and get on a roll, versus if I just kind of keep plowing through. So you also got to figure out for you what that looks like. And if you have things that require a lot of brain power, or tasks that you like and tasks that you don't like, figure out when is the best time to do those types of things. Because some people have their most energy, their best thoughts in the morning. Other people are really night people. And certain tasks and things that we have to do give us a lot of energy, and certain tasks and things we have to do drain our energy, but they still may need to be done. So, what are the things that energize you? What are some of the things that take away from your energy? And if possible, can you find somebody to be doing those tasks that drain your energy, or figure out when is the best time to be doing them? Thoughts and input from Kate and Sharmin.
I would say I always go back to self-awareness. I think that self-awareness is one of the possibly biggest game changers in your business. getting self-aware, like curious about perhaps there's blocks to worthiness, perhaps there's blocks to charging certain amounts, perhaps there's blocks to being seen, being visible, perhaps there's blocks to being able to use your voice, perhaps there's blocks to how much of my story do I share, or am I supposed to overshare, or do I share, or how do I share? So I find the more aware that I am of me, it's my story. I get to share what I want to share when I share. And also if there was stories in your past about money, who has money? What is money? For a long time, I was like, I don't need money. Money's the man. I don't need the men. I'm going to live in a van. Like, I really remember that. And so really getting curious about what were the stories around money and how I associated money to my worth, and also the bigger story that I made about money. So I think for me, the more self-aware that I become, and that constant curiosity about blocks grows me as a business owner and also grows me as a human. Don't wait for perfection. Right. Step into it now. You are always going to be evolving. And if we wait for someday, I don't know if someday ever comes, if we're enough. And that's another self-aware part, right? The enoughness. If I just get that one more certification, if I just get this skill, if I just knew how to do that, once I know how to do this, trust your wings and step off the little nest and see. And your wings get stronger and stronger, I would share, as you learn more. And then I loved what Mitzy shared about reverse engineering. And where I would take that is, I think I was about 28 years old and I always wanted a cafe, and we opened a cafe and it was glorious. And it was I met people that I never would have met, and I'm so grateful because I still have those relationships, and it's, 20 years later. And I was pregnant and sleeping on flower totes. And I was pregnant and doing 15-hour days. And I was pregnant and going in to have my baby and going to the business first to make all the desserts before going to the hospital. And I grew up in a small business. I was 3 when my parents bought their small business, and it was the baby that never grew up. And I vowed not to do that. And I remember, the wake up when this is exactly what I'm doing. And so my career now, my practice now is exactly the message that I want to be sharing in this world. And my life comes, and then I can build my business out of my life, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And what
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say, as you're both, like, the time blocks, the river, and getting curious, the self-awareness piece is huge for me right now. And it's really, when I find myself getting overwhelmed with all the tasks, and then I plug in to a podcast, to someone who's doing what I want to do and who has the mindset, and then I get re-energized by that, instead of hitting a wall of fear and saying, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. I don't have enough to say. And all the blocks that you're talking about, Kate, I think we all, even as we go through life in anything, that would come up. But I can consider myself a serial course taker. And here I'm like, I want to learn this, and I want to learn this, and I want to learn this. But I've started to become very self-aware that if I'm taking a course, I'm not doing the thing. Mm-hmm. So I've now just narrowed things down and just like, this is the only thing I need to learn right now to move forward, and everything else has to go on the back burner, and then take that next step and take that, or I'll never do it. And it's perfectionism, it's fear, it's blocks, it's all of those things. But I'm starting to really, this has been something I've been thinking about doing for years, like 5, 6, 7 years. I had the business cards made up. Did I do it? Mm-hmm. So now by retiring and not looking for something part-time or supplemental, what I've said is there's no more plan B. This needs to happen and I need to be the one to do it, period. So yeah, I find, and the time thing too is I find myself, there's so many things to do that I need to schedule. Monday mornings, I'm doing social media. Monday afternoons, I'm doing content. Monday, Tuesday, I need to schedule that. That's something that I'm just learning how to do. I've had, because I was a teacher, I've always had summers off. So this has kind of felt normal to me until this week. This is the week I would have been in the classroom. I would have been in my office. I would have been meeting with parents. And so this is the week I feel like, holy shit, I really did this. So I'm loving this advice. I'm writing it all down and soaking it all in. And I'm very grateful for your support.
And Kate made a really good point about the whole perfection thing, just kind of, if it's 85% ready, sometimes you gotta just sort of throw it out there and then adjust as you're going, because nothing will ever be perfect and you can always be improving. And I too, like you, Cheryl, like courses. Like I love learning and doing things and stuff like that. And I am definitely too much of a course junkie. My husband's always like, stop learning and just do. It's like, but it's in my nature to go to your thing, is because if I want to be the expert, I need to know so much and I need to be learning more. So I'm always by nature trying to push myself. But then, as you say, you get in that point where it's like, okay, well, now I'm spending all my time learning and I'm not spending any time doing. And, that is not good. I think they say, doing should be 80% and learning should be 20% kind of thing. And there's many a time when I've looked at it and it's like, oops, I'm in the 80% courses and 20% doing instead of the other way around. And that's not good. So,
Sharmin had a comment about perfectionism to me a little while ago. What was that, Sharmin?
What did I say?
I think something about an illusion.
Perfectionism is an illusion. And I really believe that. And if we're chasing it, we're chasing something that is not there. But my 3 things: 1, have a plan. Have a plan, sit and create a plan. You can follow a business plan model, or you can create your own plan. And with your plan, make sure that their goals, their objectives, and all of your goals are smart so that you have a deadline. Because you function within an environment in the school that had structure, that had policies, that had procedures that you followed correctly. In order to transition into business where you are the only person, you have to create structures for yourself. And it would help with the transition, make it a little smoother. Because a lot of the things that you've never done for yourself in the past 20 years, you have to do them now for yourself. And unless you have those experiences, it's difficult to delegate to someone else. So create that plan, have that plan, work that plan. Because if you don't have a plan, you become so distracted. And being conditioned to be an employee is not easy. Transitioning to being an employer, especially a solopreneur.
Good point.
So having support system and my next thing is a mentor. As opposed to taking the courses, get a mentor. You might need 4 mentors to guide you in different areas that you need guidance. Find a mentor, find someone who did it, and let them guide you through. And in this hour, we have artificial intelligence. Use it. Use it to there so many things can be automated that you don't have to be writing it every day. It's on automation and there is contact. And then at the end of the month, you see how that working because you can read the analytics. So that's my three advices to you, and I hope that they help you.
They do. And I'll tell you something. I had a name. So the business is going to start off with a podcast, a different podcast, and hopefully morph into consulting membership for a specific audience. So I've been taking all this training and realized after the artwork is done, after everything's ready to go, my name is not right. Like, it's not specific enough. It's way too broad. It doesn't. And so I used ChatGPT because I was thinking of Sharmin, and I plugged in who my audience is and what I wanted it for and what kind of tone I want. And it pumped out 5 different options that I thought would never have thought of myself, but were very specific. I sent it off to a couple of friends in my field to say, okay, we're voting. And just this afternoon, I got the votes back. So now I have to go back to Upwork because I hired someone to do the artwork after spending days trying to figure out what I needed to do. For $25, this guy put this artwork together for me. It's golden. So now for another $25, I'm gonna change my name. But yeah, so there's ChatGPT right there, very specific in the tone I wanted. So I 100% appreciate that piece of advice. And you're right, the planning and the schedule, I need to be diligent, or I am just gonna go and nothing's gonna get done. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
As you were talking, Cheryl, you made me think, with the name, you find a great name. One of the other things nowadays is, check and make sure you can register that name. Check and make sure the domain name, the .com, is available, right? Because if you don't, all of a sudden you're building your brand and then you realize, oh, geez, I can't get that name in the .com or depending on what your business is, maybe a .ca or one of the other domains, but still today the .com is sort of, the gold standard. And you made me think something, I think it was something Sharmin said, made me think, one of the things I think that it's easy to fall into as entrepreneurs, that shiny object syndrome, or kind of being like a squirrel where you're kind of going everywhere and something catches your eye and you sort of try and do that. And like you said, you just have to pick out that piece of what's important to learn and do that and push aside everything else and just focus on that. And, the good old adage, as they say, KISS, keep it simple, sweetie, break it down to the basics, figure out how to do it, systematize it, and then look at how you can scale it. Right. But you got to get down to those basics first and then do it step by step.
I was listening to, I don't know if you know Hal Elrod's podcast, and he did one just last week about overwhelm. And overwhelm, he said, I credit him on this, is an internal job. It's not external. It's not how much you have to do. It's how you're going to do it. And it's taking you, one person can only do one thing at a time. So you take everything off the list and you pick the one thing that you can do and you do it. And then you pick the next thing that you can do and then you do it. But you're not looking at the whole big picture thinking, oh, I have to do the website and I have to do this and I have to have my content and I have to have my podcast and I have to have my guests and you can only do one thing, and it's the one thing that needs to be done next. Not, oh, I can pick the easy job because it doesn't need to be done until June of next year. This needs to be like my name. All of this part needs to be done today. so that I can get things moving and get things launching. And so I took the easy route with the domain name, just pick CherylPankhurst.com, and that leaves my business free to do whatever it needs to do. There's only one of me. You can't copy me.
I love that. Some great advice I got from my business coach was we would do, what is the task? And then break that task down into steps and really break it down into steps. And if what you think is a step, but when you look at it is actually 4 steps, break that down so that it's actually each step, so that you are aware of where you're, like a plan, right? As Sharmin said, how great a plan is. What are the actual steps? And am I clumping 17 steps thinking it's 1? And something that I've heard quite frequently is we underestimate what we can do in a year, and we overestimate what we can do in a month. Right? We underestimate what we can get done in a year, and we overestimate what we can do in a month. And then, of course, the horrible thing, because I absolutely love elephants, but when people say, you eat an elephant a bite at a time.
Eat that frog. Have you read that book? Yeah.
Eat the frog first.
Eat the frog. So yeah, eat your worst task, do your worst task first, get it out of the way, which I think eating the elephant would be.
Well, it's one bite at a time. Right? Another great thing, though, is a reflection of how much am I creating versus how much am I consuming, right? So how much time am I spending consuming other people's content versus how much time am I creating my own content? And creating your own looks like anything. And then a really big insight for me that has shifted, because I was a serial course collector, and I'm really aware now that it was this, I need it to be whatever I was supposed to be. Like, oh, if I have that, then I can be this. If I have, and now, and I'm still in courses, but the place that I come from now is a very different place of, I'm very curious about that. And I see how that can complement what I'm doing, but I'm doing, right? I'm not just consuming, I'm doing.
Yes.
And I see how this can weave through what I do, and the energy inside my body. I do a check-in to just see, where is this coming from? Is this from curiosity and you can see how it will complement, or is this coming from a place of urgency and I'm not going to be whatever that vision is until I have that? And those are very different places to want to learn from.
I think that was a really great point about that consuming content versus creating content. And that's something that's kind of, you can do a self-check with yourself, a couple of times during the day. Am I creating or am I consuming at this point? And that's something that I hadn't really thought of until you mentioned it, Kate. So I thank you very much for that, because it's one of those kind of easy things that you could sort of do and kind of check in with yourself on a regular basis. And during the course of our conversation, I sort of thought about, the 4 quadrants of time management matrix. So in the top left, there's the important and urgent. And then in the top right, it's the not urgent, but important. And then in the bottom left, it is the not important and urgent. And then in the bottom right, it is the not important and not urgent. Right. And when you're looking at what you're doing or how you're spending your time, right? I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be spending a lot of time in the not important and not urgent. And the more time you spend in the important but not urgent quadrant, then it helps you, not get into as many urgent situations. So again, kind of thinking of that matrix, and you can look it up online and kind of see it, and maybe you stick it in front of you somewhere so that you just kind of periodically are taking a look and seeing is, what am I working on something right now that is important, and what category does it fall into, and kind of check in with yourself, because I think it's, as you say, easy to accidentally be spending time in the wrong quadrants.
I feel like I just had a masterclass.
You just did.
Hopefully so does everybody else who attends our podcast.
I really want to
bef-
hear more from Sharmin, but there's a few other things that I really want to offer. And starting out, to just be aware if you're looking at your business and comparing it to someone who's been in business for a decade, or who has, it's your business, period, in all of the ways that I could possibly say. Cheryl, it's your business. Right? What you share is your business. What you charge is your business. Who you serve is your business. And another thing that's connected with that is, and this isn't a judgment on anyone at all. There's a lot of strategies that are sold in the world, and because a strategy works for someone else doesn't mean that it will necessarily be your strategy. And because someone else could get whatever successes they did through that strategy doesn't necessarily mean it talks to your soul or your partnership with the universe or what you're here to share and how you're here to share it. And so I would, if I could offer anything, it would be to really trust you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That is so wonderful, Mitzy. Kate, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Cheryl, indeed, you had a masterclass. Because what Kate just said, it's so easy for us that to make comparisons. But for me, what I want to say to add to all that Kate listed about self-awareness is to be present. Be present through the process, because this journey is yours. It's unique for you. And I think, as Kate even, eloquently said, what works for me, what works for Mitzy, what works for Kate may never work for you. So being present and allowing yourself to do whatever comes with the learning process. You might feel like you have hit a stumbling wall, or it's a challenge, it's a hurdle. Embrace it, because there is a lesson there for you. I believe if you run away from it, it's going to find you somewhere along the path. So there will be challenges there. Learn the process, enjoy the process, follow the mentors, but still follow your gut. Become more aware of that gut feelings. It's your guide. Yeah, and this journey, it's a wonderful journey. I wouldn't trade it for anything else, because the things that I've learned, despite I did a master's in organizational leadership and I worked, it's different when you're an entrepreneur. Your understanding of what you're doing is different, because your livelihood depends on it. So you're viewing it through different lens. And there is so much to learn. Embrace the process, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheryl,
Yes, I'm so grateful for all of you. I didn't know this was going to be such a coaching session for me, as well as anyone else who's embarking or mid-stride, but I think this also warrants a few months down the road. It holds me accountable to you three to say, okay, here I am, and this is what I'm doing. And this has just been really helpful, and I'm so grateful for all of you. Strong women, this is what they say is, the more women that have the paychecks in their hands are making differences in the world. That sorry, gender specific, but women are making the differences. Women need to write the paychecks. Women need to have control and make the decisions, because that's where the world is going to really change. And so I want to be one of them, and I want to be one of you, and I'm so proud to be in this group.
You reminded me of the song Sisters Are Doing It. It was from the 80s with there was 4 female singers in it. I can't remember, but Annie Lennox I think was one of them, and there's 4, and it's a great song. If you have a chance, listen to it again, because it sort of goes to exactly to what you were talking about, and that's what popped into my mind as you were saying it. And I remember as I was starting at my career, I'd play that song rocking in the background.
Any last thoughts?
Just for some statistics that women make up 25 to 30% of all registered businesses internationally. And they are women entrepreneurs in various sectors, including retail, services, healthcare, education, and technology. And the challenge that women face is that women entrepreneurs often face unique challenges, such as limited access to funding, gender bias, work-life balance, and societal expectations. And I hope, Cheryl, that you don't have to encounter any of those.
I hope not. And I think right, 2023, I think we've made some huge impact. Well, you have. I'm on my way to make the huge impact. So I thank you for these great leaders in this room. And I have 3 mentors that I very much appreciate.
As do I, and I very much appreciate you all. And I just want to add to women invest differently. And this is I love men. I love masculine energy. I'm grateful for my masculine energy, and I lived in it for much too long. And my understanding is that women build community. Women reinvest in women. Women make different changes in the world that we live in when women's voices are heard and when women are in entrepreneurship. And I was trying to find a stat of how many women break the millionaire mark in entrepreneurship, and my understanding it is quite low compared to men. And I really believe that's where self-awareness comes in as well. And 2 things that I wanted to share, I don't know if I'll remember the second, but the first one is this visual comes to me often. It's when the crab has grown, right? And it has to leave its shell, and it's looking for the larger shell because it has grown. That's when it sheds the shell, and it's at its most vulnerableness. So when you're growing, right, you are to trust that process of your own growth. And then also, as we all know, that no one grows in their comfort zone.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good point about that sort of you're most vulnerable when you're growing and you're trying something new and you're pushing the envelope and doing new things. And also that also goes to that point that we're talking about finding other business people and mentors and stuff to work with, because your family's nature is they want to protect you and don't want you to get hurt. And, so they may be cautioning you against doing these things that are unknown, unproven, and inadvertently zapping your energy and your confidence because of their fears or their unknown or whatever in the thing. So surrounding yourself with people who will help push you forward rather than hold you down, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally, with good intentions or bad intentions, but making sure that when it comes to stuff like that, that you're surrounding yourself with the people who will pull you forward and push you to do more versus settle for what's comfortable.
I love it.
And I pledge to be an accountability partner for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I pledge to be someone that has walked the path. And as Mitzy said, how many times do we go to people for advice about our business who have no idea what we're talking about, have no idea what it is that we do, have no idea, that there's risks, and but sometimes you have to put out a lot more money than's coming in right now. And these are the people that we go to try to calm that nervousness in our bodies, and they have absolutely no idea what it is that we're speaking of. So they're like, no, go get a job with a person. What are you doing? So yes, I vow to be here too for someone that's walking the walk.
That's my mother right now. Are you sure? You want a what? I don't really. So yeah, I understand. That's not who I'm surrounding myself with in the business part of it. Well, thank you all very, very much. This has been just such a wonderful hour. I'm so grateful for you all, and we will see you all next week. Thank you for joining us for the Transforming Lives podcast panel. You transformed my life today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grateful for you all.
And that's a wrap for the Transforming Lives podcast panel, where we strive to embrace, inspire, and empower our community.
Be sure to subscribe and download. Also, don't forget to leave a review and check the show notes for resources and contacts for all of us. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you, Sharmin.
Thank you, Cheryl.